Hello again. This time we're going to be looking at more than just the tools. Those have been covered, and we're now going to be looking at all the different menu items up above, including some of the windows that you'll be utilizing. So we're not going to cover everything, of course, but just some basic ones. We already made a new file. You can also, of course, open up a new file. Bridge is an optional component. You might have downloaded already. I believe it downloads when you download Photoshop. And that program is basically it's a good program just to be using for organizing images, files, things like that. But occasionally you might find that helpful. We're going to skip this one. Smart objects are, I'll get into this a little bit more, but kind of like pretend vectors, where they can be edited sometimes, not always. Open recent is helpful, so anything that you have opened recently that you would like to use again, you can just come up here and reopen it. All these other ones are fine. Sometimes close all is helpful if you do have a lot of things open, a lot of tabs. Save as, of course save will be important too. This is grayed out because I've just opened up the file. The save as function, you will sometimes need it. Of course you can change what file format you have. One thing that's important for Photoshop is that if you open up a JPEG and you make a slight change to it, you can save it again and it'll save it as a JPEG, no problem. However, if you have any extra layers, you cannot save it as a JPEG at that point. You have to save it as a Photoshop document. When you do a save, it just will automatically ask for that. Now you can change it back to a JPEG. Let me just give you a quick example here. I'll simply make a duplicate layer of this one. So before, I would just be able to save and it would save the JPEG, but now if I go to save, it changes it from a JPEG and goes to a PSD because there's a layer involved. Now, should I really actually want to save it as a JPEG, which means it's not editable, at that point it's flat again. I can save it as a JPEG, but it does not, oops, sorry, that one comes off the side a little bit there we go. What I want you to notice is that it's going to save this one, not as, I'll just show you what happens. So watch up top here, the extension will change. But what it does is it wants to make it as a copy because it knows that it wants to save it as this other working file, this one that's got a couple of different layers. So just know that as soon as you start editing an image, you will need to save it as a PSD so that you can come back and edit it later. But you can also make JPEGs that essentially are copies of what you see on the actual screen. So right now, anything that I would have had on screen would have been saved as that JPEG. So I would always recommend keeping your PSD and then also making JPEGs as you need them from the PSD, but always keep your original PSD file handy. Revert will take you back to its original point. Export becomes important because sometimes the save as function won't give you the file type that you need, and also you want to be able to save things for the web, and this stuff gets very important as we come to our web stuff. So quick export as a PNG. I'm going to walk you through what some of these ones mean. Oh, that one didn't go through. My preference as we go through this is that you use the Save for Web, Save for Web, which is a legacy format. That means anything prior to the CCs, the Photoshop Creative Cloud versions, they are going to be, so if you indeed are using a earlier version, you might see this right next to the Save As button instead of under Export. But what it does is it shows you more of the ways that you can save a file, which is desirable. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the 2-up or the 4-up, and we'll just be seeing, now this is a huge image. You can see right down here is the image size is 4,000, almost 5,000 pixels. I'm going to take that down to like 600 just so we can see it. And after I do that, I can either hit the tab key or I can simply click in this space and it resizes it. And this would be something that's probably closer to an ideal size for online. And typically I would not upload anything over 1,000 pixels. It just means unnecessary download time for a phone. And then the reason I had you do the 4-up is so you can see the differences between how the files would make themselves. So this is the original, that one doesn't change. This one is going to be considered, I'm going to pull this up, oh, dang, it won't let me do it. Okay, well, underneath this is a done. Oh goodness, that's unfortunate. It says save, cancel, and done underneath there. So eventually you'll have to do a save on the one that you choose for saving. The first one is a GIF. Now, some people will call it a GIF. It stands for Graphic Interchange Format, and it is, you got to remember the G for graphic. And so typically we don't do photographs as a GIF because the limited color palette doesn't always lend itself very well for it. Sometimes it's fine, it really just depends on your photograph, but generally the file size might be undesirable. If you want it to look photographic, you're going to want a lot of colors, and its maximum number of colors that it shows are 256. As you can see I lost some of the green in here. You can lower the number of colors, and at that point, you know, sometimes you can get an actual kind of an interesting effect, but normally for a photograph you'd probably want the full color range. And so for this one it's not as effective. You can see the file size here is 180, almost 185K. For this one I'm going to change it from being a GIF to being a JPEG. Now JPEG stands for Joint Photographic Expert Group, and so it is, if you remember the P in this one, it stands for photographic. That's the best one for a photograph typically. And you can change the quality here. So sometimes you might be able to, depending on your photograph, you might be able to do a lower value. Let me just lower it real far. You can kind of see what I'm talking about here. Now this is a smaller photograph, so you can get away with a lot lower quality. But it's just at some point it's going to start to degrade and not look all that great. Let me bump up the size here and see if we can get that to change. Yeah, it's still, I didn't choose the best image for this one because it's a textured image where it makes it a little bit harder to show the actual bad quality here. I'm also going to unclick optimize. We don't need that particular aspect. Okay. And then for this one, I'm going to show a PNG. And a PNG, we don't usually go past the 8. PNG stands for Portable Network Graphic, and it is it's a little bit of a combination. It can handle both photograph and graphic sometimes, so at times, again, it's going to be quite helpful. Other times, you know, probably not so much. It just depends on, again, what exactly do you have in it. Typically what I would say is a photograph by itself, JPEG. A graphic by itself, GIF. If you have something that has a little bit of photograph and graphic, your best bet might be the PNG. So for this one, again, if we want a full photo, you want to probably have it at 256 colors. But what I want to show you here is that there's a difference in how much they weigh. This one I'm going to bump back up to at least, you know, medium quality. And to see how much that file weighs, you can see it under here. Right now, this one is 312, this one is 121, and this one's 251. So in this particular file, the JPEG is the best solution. It just has a compression that works best for photographs, and so the file size is smaller. So you would probably prefer this one. And then you simply hit save and save it as that. Other times, if you know what you want, you can just do the 2-up, and that's all you might need. But this will help you get the lay of the land and get just a little bit more insight into what those file types mean and what they can do. Alright, so moving on from there, I'm going to move into, oh, now it's asking me for the, when I was trying to save it as a PNG before. I'm going to hit cancel on this one and have you start a new video.